Rip City is in mourning, following the news that the mayor of Rip City, the legendary voice of the Portland Trailblazers, Bill Schonely, passed away at the age of 93. As fans and lovers of the Schonz pour in and share memories of Bill Schonely, we flash back to an episode of the Posting Up podcast with our own godfather, Dwight Jaynes, way back in the day. Sat down with Bill to talk about just about anything and get the story from the man himself. So sit back and enjoy and listen to this bit of nostalgia as we remember Bill Schonely.
All right, Schonz, I'm going to try and ask you things today that I have never asked you before.
All right.
Is it true that you, of all people, did you once have a problem with stuttering?
Yes, I did. When I was in high school, I stuttered quite a bit. And when I first got into the broadcasting business, when I was in the Marine Corps overseas, Armed Forces Radio, I still had that problem. But what got me out of that and really helped me was my singing, music. Because when you sing, no matter how bad you stutter, you don't stutter when you sing. And you learn to breathe properly. So I worked on that, and it worked out.
Okay, Bill, so you got into broadcasting in the Marines. You were a Marine, and you landed your first job. Where was that, Bill?
My first job when I got out of the Marine Corps was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, a station called WAFB, radio on one side of the street, and a brand new UHF TV station across the street. So all the guys and the gals that worked there, we worked radio and we worked TV. I was a disc jockey, a sports guy, a booth announcer. I ran a camera pop on occasion. The booth announcer, I was the SO reporter. I did the weather, and we did everything. And they finally gave me a show in the afternoon from 3 to 3:30 in the afternoon called Just Friends with Me. So.
What a perfect name for your show.
Yeah.
Then you ended up in Seattle, got a job in Seattle.
Yeah, to make a long story short.
That's really where it all started
right,
as a
correct.
sports
I
broadcaster.
had the chance to go to Seattle in 1955 and with KOMO radio and TV. And there was another guy that worked with me. We both, he just got out of college. He was a cougar. His name was Keith Jackson. Everybody knows what happened to Keith Jackson, but they don't know what happened to me.
Yes, they do, Bill. Yes, they do. What a station that must have been. All right, Sean, so you're banging around Seattle doing the odd jobs that we all do when we're starting off our broadcasting career. You're even doing a little roller derby, a little wrestling, and all
That's
that
exactly
stuff
right.
too.
Dwight, I did it all. The groundwork was tremendous. And then I had a chance, after those years doing AAA baseball, part of the final years of the Seattle Rainiers, and then all of the Seattle Angels, and I worked with some great managers, Joe Adcock, Bob Lemon. You go right on down the line. That was wonderful. Then the city of Seattle got the pilots. Everybody was excited, but no stadium. Played at Old Six Seattle Stadium. I know you've been there over many, many years. It was a great little ballpark, but it didn't.
It wasn't a major league ball.
No, it could only. They put bleachers out in the outfield, left field, center field, and everything, just planks, so they can get 25,000 people in there. Well, we had a great time. But by the end of the season and the beginning of the next year, Seattle still didn't have anything on the drawing boards for a stadium, and the now commissioner of baseball, Bud Selig, had an empty station and an empty ballpark in Milwaukee because he lost the Braves to Atlanta. Well, he coerced the American League owners, along with their president, Joe Cronin at the time, big, good old Joe, to take that franchise away from the city of Seattle. I could have gone to Milwaukee with the team, and they were going to hire me back there. I decided to stay in Seattle because my radio and TV work was really going very well at the time. Well, Harry Glickman and I became friends through our hockey association. I was doing the old Seattle Totems of the Western Hockey League, great league in those days, and Harry obviously had the Portland Buckaroos. So he called me, he said, "Schonz, how'd you like to do NBA basketball?" I said, well, that sounds pretty good. I just had a Major League Baseball job, and I really thought, Dwight, that I was going to be in baseball for the rest of my life. And I could have cared less in those days about the NBA, because I was doing National Hockey League games, working with the Huskies, I was doing baseball, I was doing 100 other things. But I thought, wow. So I came down to Portland, sat down with Harry. Within 5 minutes, he shook my hand, and that's about 42 years ago.
Bill, I know you did a lot of hockey in Seattle. You did the old Seattle Totems in the Western Hockey League.
Yeah.
Great league in the old days. You know, the days of the original 6 in the NHL. A lot of players that would have been in the NHL played in that league. So it was great hockey, and I know you were very passionate about hockey, but there's a story about you, and I cannot believe this is true. It sounds so out of character. You were in the Bay Area one night doing the Totems game against the old Seals in the Western Hockey League, and there was a fan making a lot of racket with some kind of horn or something that was really getting on your nerves.
Yeah,
I can't help myself, Schonz. I love this story. What happened?
In the playoffs, Seattle against San Francisco. We were at the old Cow Palace. And it was the 4th or 5th game of the series. There was a guy sitting behind me a few rows and had a siren, and he just kept going and going and going all night long, driving everybody else nuts, including me. Now we get to the point where the game is over, and the San Francisco Seals won that particular game in the playoffs. So now I get to the point where it's the post-game show, and I'm wrapping it up, talking about the next game, which is going to be in Seattle in a couple of days. This guy comes down behind me, and at the Cow Palace, we were right out among the fans in the little table. Ice was in front of me. He came down, and while I was reciting my post-game show, he got right up to my ear and started to grind that little siren. And I'm getting redder and madder by the minute. And finally I said, I'm going to take a break, but somebody's going to get a knuckle sandwich. I gave my cue, turned around, got him. I knocked him,
punched him out.
and I busted him. I was so mad. That's a true story. I'm not proud of that.
It was good night wherever you may be, right?
He was
right
out of there.
there.
Boy, they hauled his butt out of the Cow Palace right away.
Man, can you imagine doing that nowadays? Holy Toledo.
I thought he was going to be deaf. I mean, he had it up there, and I had to keep going. There's nothing I could do about it. I tried to shove the guy away, but he got a knuckle sandwich.
Bill, over the years with the Trailblazers, it's unbelievable to me how many great partners you had. And I was blessed with the opportunity to sit next to your partner on the road quite often. And we're talking about guys like Jeff Petrie and Dave Twardzik. I learned by osmosis a lot about the NBA game just from sitting next to those guys.
And so did I. It was great to work with those guys and all the rest of the people that were aligned with me. But for years, I did the games all by myself. And then Jimmy Marsh, you remember Jim Marsh? Mm-hmm. He was my first color analyst.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. Very involved with basketball up in Seattle.
Yes,
and done a lot for young kids.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Schonz, as long as we're talking about things people don't really know about you, I've got one you may not even know about, and that is you were actually featured on a song by the rap group Public Enemy. Came out in '92, and your play-by-play is actually in the bed of that song.
I did not know this story.
And you didn't get any revenue from that at all, did you?
I don't remember anything about it.
I'll play you sometime. True story.
Get me the money first.
You'd like that,
okay.
wouldn't you?
No, I did not know that story.
That's a true story.
Wow.
Okay, this year, Basketball Hall of Fame calls.
Yeah. I'm honored.
We'd been trying for a while, and the Blazers had
you
done
and a lot of other people, and I thank you.
No, but I say it only because I want to emphasize that for years, that honor had been reserved, I think, for guys in Chicago, Detroit, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, the big media centers, mostly East Coast,
Correct.
LA, of course, for a Chick Hearn, but not a lot of representation in the smaller NBA cities. But finally, there was a breakthrough. Al McCoy got in, and that Joe Tate got in, and that kind of woke me up. It's like, no, wait a minute now. We're starting to get down to the guys that really ought to be in there. And Schonz, it's never been more deserved that you got a piece of that thing.
Thank you.
And how did that feel? How did that feel when you finally got that call?
Well, I was in the process of coming down with a huge case of bronchitis, and I was sicker than a puppy dog there for a while. But the Hall called me, and Larry Miller called me with about 5 minutes apart and said, Schonz, you're going into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame this year. Well, I was speechless. To go into the Kurt Gowdy wing of the Basketball Hall of Fame, and baseball has their broadcast division as well. As a matter of fact, my old partner Jimmy Dudley with the Pilots, he's in the baseball broadcast wing there at Cooperstown. I know he'd be very happy if he knew that I was going to go in a different sport, but into the Hall of Fame as well. I'm just honored that some of the people who are in there already, including the writers,
There's some giants,
awesome.
Bill. You're walking with giants.
Dick Enberg.
Yeah, Dick
Kurt
Enberg.
Gowdy himself.
Yeah.
Chick Hearn.
Chick.
Johnny Most. You can go right
Marv
on down
Albert's
there.
in there, I
Marv
believe.
Albert, he called me
Jimmy
not too long
Durham,
ago. Jimmy Durham's in there.
And Al. And
He's not late now, but he's still alive. And with us, Bob Wolf, who did the Washington Senators and the Rangers and the New York Knicks for years and years, and did boxing back at the old Madison Square Garden. He's in there as well. Dick Vitale. You go right on down the line. Pretty good group.
darn good group. And there's some Blazers in there too, so
oh yes,
you'll be carrying the flag for the Blazers, and it's a great time.
And your old friend Sam Smith for the Chicago Tribune is going in. Phil Knight is going in.
Yeah, it's a great
Phil
year.
and I. It's great.
Yeah, no, people whose presence in the hall long overdue. So
Thank
it's an exciting time, and we're really looking forward to it. We'll have more with Bill Schonely coming up. All right, Bill, also in Seattle, another story, and I can't resist this one either. You broadcast wrestling a little bit, and I know how it is for wrestling broadcasters. Every once in a while, they rope you into the bit a little bit. You get involved, and they get you in the ring.
Yes.
And, they roped you into a match, did they
That's
not?
exactly right. I've been doing weekly telecast, actually, from the Tacoma Armory, as well as the old arena in Seattle. And so I was down there, one end of the ring, show was going on and so forth and so on. And week by week, a guy that wore the mask, and as I sit here right now, I can't think of his name, but he was the Masked Marvel or whatever it was. It was giving me a bad time for weeks. Finally this night, he came out of the ring, picked me up, and slammed me right there on television. So I'm stunned, and I get up and so forth and so on, and we go for the post-game show, and lo and behold, it's amazing, but they had a camera in the basement of the Tacoma Armory.
Coincidence, pure.
Yeah, it just happened to be there. So they got me down there and sat me down in in a couple of chairs, and the two wrestlers, the Brunetti brothers were there, Guy and Joe. They came up to me and said, hey, we're going to take these guys, that masked guy and any two people that wrestlers that he wants, and Joe and I, and we want you, Schonz, to be our third partner. Well, I came unglued, and I said, yeah, okay. So the next week at the Tacoma Armory, Joe and Guy Brunetti and the Schonz were in the ring. I had to get trunks and ready, and I was lifting weights all week long, and all that. And I got out there, I took a couple of blows, but the good guys prevailed.
Well, yeah, they did.
We got
and
it.
did you get the pin to win the match?
No, I didn't
Were
get the
you
pin,
winner?
but I think it was Joe that got the pin. But I reached out, they took the tag, and they got me out of there. And Joe came to my rescue because the other guys were pumping me, you know. Dwight, I've done it all.
You have done it all, Schonz.
You're bringing all these stories out of me.
Well, you know, let's get now to Blazer days, and there's one thing that I haven't heard you talk about a lot recently, but when I covered the team, we did chat about it once in a while, and you had a long string of games that you called, and you didn't miss any games. You didn't miss preseason. You didn't miss regular season. Sick or hurt or whatever, you did the game. But you did have to miss some games. In the 1982-83 season, I believe, you missed 25 of them, and that was because you were recovering from a heart attack.
Yes,
And
very true.
you were close to buying the ticket right there on the spot, weren't you?
We were over in, Dave Twardzik, myself, we're over in Pendleton, Oregon, doing a clinic. He was doing a clinic, and I was working with the local radio station there and their local clients. And it was very, very warm. So we went to a luncheon, and we had about 2.5 to 3 hours to kill before Dave had to go for another clinic, and I had to do something else. So we said, what? Maybe we get 9 holes of golf at the Pendleton Country Club. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. So after a light lunch, out to the golf course we go. We tee it up, we start to play. I begin to feel strange for whatever reason. Pain in my arm and then up in my hand, and I didn't say anything to these guys. So we finished the first hole. We go up to the second tee. Now it's in my shoulders and around from my right side to my left side. And it's warm, but I am really perspiring real bad. And we finished the second hole. Tee it up on the third hole. I go to the right. Dave and a kid by the name of Greg Smith went to the right, or to the left. And I got about halfway down the fairway, and I said, and Twardzik said, what's wrong with you? I said, I think you guys go and finish playing. I want to sit here under this tree, on this rock, and relax. I can't make it. I don't want to go. Well, I talked them in to continuing on. Now I'm by myself. I walk up this little hill, and I get into my car, and I turn on the air conditioning. Well, I passed out. Somebody in the parking lot came over and found me, and they said, Schonz, what can we do? I said, get Twardzik. And I opened the door and fell out on the grass. And that's about the last I remember of that. Twardzik and Greg Smith got back, ran me into Pendleton to the hospital there. And in essence, they got me to the church on time. They flew me back to Portland.
There was a life flight helicopter.
Life flight, yes, sir. I've done whatever I can.
You've been a life
for
flight
a life flight
supporter ever since?
Yes, I have, right.
Yeah, raised a lot of money for
And
that.
Twardzik and those guys. You know, Twardzik has the old story. You probably heard him say this. He tells that story in his own way. And he ends it with this. Yes, we're going to go play. It's been nice knowing you. Shakes my hand.
Bill, we've known each other a long time, and I wanted to ask you this because I've had the opportunity to really find out how much your wife, Dottie, means to you. Mm-hmm. And she came back in your life at just the right time, and you got together. And tell us about that whole process of sort of meeting Dottie again and getting together and all of that and what it's meant to your life.
Well, Dottie and I grew up together in the same town, Norristown, Pennsylvania, and we're in music together, and we thought at one time it's going to be Dottie and Bill. Well, that didn't work out, so make a long story short, I went my way, she went her way, both of us got married and had families, and then after many, many years, her husband passed away, and I was going through a divorce at the time. My kids were growing up, and I went back to a high school reunion, the first one that I could ever attend. And I inquired through some friends of mine, do you know where Dottie Care is? That was her name. And they said, yeah, she's living outside of Cleveland. She was in Richfield, Ohio. Remember the old Richfield building where the Cavs played? Yeah, well, she living very close to that. And all those years, I never knew that. Well, I went back. I called her to tell her that I was going to come back, and would it be possible if we could get together? I'd just love to see you. She never answered the phone. I called. She didn't answer. I said, before I went back, I'm going to try it one more time. So I called. She answered the phone back in Ohio. I said, I bet you don't know who this is. She says, oh, yes, I do. How can I ever forget that sexy voice?
Oh, my.
Bingo, bango, bongo, Dwight. I couldn't wait to get back there. And so we put it together finally after a period of time. So we started together and we'll end it together.
What has that meant to you? And I know how close you guys are and what a great companion she's been for you.
No, she's been everything to me. It's been terrific. What more can I say? You know, when I was ill there not too long ago, she took care of me. I couldn't wait to get out of the house because I was in quarantine, you know, but I only joke about that. She's done wonders for me.
And your life is good now, Bill. And I know your broadcasting career ended a little earlier than you would have liked.
It did, yes. But they brought me back, and I'm the only guy, Dwight, that was on the active payroll in 1970 and on the active payroll to this day. How about that?
It's not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
I'm not ready to retire yet.
Really?
As long as I can do some things for the organization, and I'm doing quite a bit behind the scenes.
What kind of stuff are you doing?
Voice work and all of that, and out and about in my charities that I'm involved in, those medically fragile children over at Providence Child Center. I do whatever I can for them. That's sort of a real passion for me. And I have a tough time saying no to people. I might, from here on out, start to say no more and more.
What, now that you're in the Hall of Fame, you don't have to do that? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I can use that. I never thought about it. Hey,
tell them, hey,
I'm in the Hall of Fame. I don't need to go. No. I'm only kidding.
What do you do for the team? I know you're an ambassador. What does that mean?
Well, to talk about not only the glory days of this franchise, but to keep everybody up to date from my standpoint. And they haul me here and haul me there. And I don't want to use that in a frivolous way, but I enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
I like to be around people.
You even go on the road with the team once in a while, don't you?
Every once in a while, yeah, I make some trips. You know, they named that little restaurant over there, Schonely's place at the Rose Garden. So I go in there before every game, and at halftime, I got to fight my way to get into the place. It's packed, and everybody seems to enjoy that. And I talk to people, and I just have a good time.
Been a great life, Schonz.
Oh, yeah, it has. And you were part of it.
A very small part of
By
a
the
very
way, can
big
I?
life.
No, I better not tell that story. No.
You better not be telling any stories. It's my show. Don't forget that. Schonz, when people come on, we like to give them a tie from Estes, and I know you know those guys over
do I
there,
ever?
Tony
Yes.
and Brian and those guys. And
Yeah.
they thought, they know your clothing, and they thought with that blue blazer you like to wear, that'd be a beautiful tie for you.
Wow, absolutely. Well, thank you, Estes. That's very nice. Thank you, Dwight.
And Bill, thanks for coming on.
You bet.